Welcome back, folks. We've been experiencing I'll call it some winter weather here in Central Texas. And so, of course, our plants have too. Lance Roberson of plants.org is here to talk about how to properly prune and keep these babies alive in the winter months. Lance, good morning.
Good morning.
Why don't we talk about a good time for pruning, or what you call winter cutbacks?
Sure. So too many people want to look at a calendar and say, this is the day that I cut plants back. But we live in Central Texas. It could be 80 in January. We could be waiting for another snowpocalypse.
Yep.
So you can't really trust the calendar as much as you really need to look at the weather.
Or the Farmer's Almanac. I'm going to be honest with you guys. They may not be able to predict the freeze.
Yeah, a book written a couple of hundred years ago, not so great at guessing freezes right now. But so a lot of plants look bad. And oftentimes plants look bad and people just want to cut them until they look good.
Or toss them in the trash.
Or throw them in the trash. And I'm guilty of that. Whenever a plant looks sad like some of these do, it's just really hard sometimes, especially if it's in a pot, not to just toss it out. So, it depends on the plant. I say this too often, but individual plants need individual attention. So these plants are all going to be kind of treated differently.
Okay, let's start with topiary shrubs or kind of boxwood, something like that.
Boxwoods are some of the best and easiest things to cut. They've got these real small leaves. They basically grow where you cut them. So these are the ones we can cut into spirals and shapes and dogs and hot dogs and anything you can think of. Topiaries.
Hot dogs.
I don't know what people cut plants into, but I've seen it all. So this is a really great plant. You can use shears or hedge clippers or pretty much anything. And as long as you don't cut more than like 40 or 50% of the plant, usually they just flush right back out and look really good.
Genuine question, because I've had like a box-looking boxwood before, and it went dead on like one spot on one side. What do I do about that?
Sure, the dead spots are really hard. Oftentimes it's from them being along a house or a wall or something, and you get that side that just gets shaded. But also the cutting matters. These plants want to grow where they get cut. So not only can you sometimes get a bald spot, but you can get the inside of them that'll just be dead. And sometimes it's good just to really severely cut them back and let them flush back out. And then you won't have that brown spot. It'll be a little smaller for a while, but it'll flush back out to the green.
That makes me happy. Okay, we're going to talk about hydrangeas, which are one of my favorite flowers on the planet. This one looks especially sad.
I love hydrangeas. This is one of my favorites. This is called Endless Summer. It actually will bloom twice a year versus a lot of the hydrangeas we have that are just going to bloom in the spring. These are great for spring and fall. The thing about hydrangeas we really have to pay attention to is they like to bloom on the older wood. So they like to bloom on last year or last season's growth. So you can see, I leave everything on my plants in nurseries.
Okay.
We only are going to cut these once the growth starts in the spring and we know which branches are dead or not, because we want them to flower and then cut them back.
Okay, so wait a minute. There's a difference between dead and old.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so dead is going to be stuff like this that you're going to see. It's just not going to grow. We have a couple of stems where there's not going to be any leaves that come out in the spring. That's fine. You can cut those back when they're dead. But as far as the ones that have leaves, you want to let those keep growing. You want to let those stay. They're going to look really sad right now. But if you cut them down now, you'll not see any blooms in the spring.
Okay, so look for fully dead versus something that's actually trying to come back.
Yeah, and you can see ours are in greenhouses, so we've got a little growth in the winter time. So we've got a much better idea of what we can cut back and what we can't. In your landscape, it may be just sticks right now. Please don't cut those sticks back until you know it's coming back in the spring, or you will miss these wonderful. I mean, look at these are old and dead flowers, but they're huge. I love them. You can hardly beat hydrangeas.
Oh, they're absolutely gorgeous. Okay, how should freezes potentially and the weather determine what we do when we talk about kind of grasses and annuals?
Sure, grasses and annuals are kind of together in this, that whenever you start to cut them, they really want to grow. Especially our ornamental grasses, if you cut them right now and we start to have freezes, you can do damage to that new kind of tender plant. Same thing with the annuals. The annuals only have 1 year to live. So you're really going to want those to stay as big as they can for as long as they can, because once you start cutting them back, they're going to try to grow. So if you do that sometime like January, you're going to end up with some freeze damage on them, because January is our coldest month. February, we all know we get snow in February. So this is something that you've really got to be careful with.
So kind of leave it as is, right?
Yes, I hate to tell people this, but ornamental grasses in the winter need to look like big dead grasses.
Okay.
And then in the winter time, about when you start mowing your lawn again, about when the Bermuda comes up, cut all these back, they'll flush bigger, they'll flush faster, and do way better.
Okay, and then these poppies are part of those annuals, right?
Yeah, and
these are gorgeous, by the way. I didn't know a poppy could be this bright yellow. Fabulous.
And poppies, the reason why I brought these is you kind of have a choice to make. If you cut the flowers right after they flower, you'll get more flowers. So if you just love poppy flowers, cut them. But if you want them to stay, if you want them to seed, leave them. Poppies are great about reseeding, and you get hundreds, if not thousands, of seeds from them. So
wow.
Certainly leave those if you can.
Okay, we're in a winter drought right now, you say. So what are some practices to help plants get through it? When you brought this to me, I said, oh, it's like got freezy bits or something on it. It's actually wax.
Yeah, we wax roses when we cut these. This is a rose that we cut back. We do it because there's several types of wasps that will actually burrow down into the stems after we cut them.
Oh.
And then the other reason is to keep them a little bit healthier. When we're doing these in greenhouses, there's hundreds of thousands of plants, and we want to keep diseases from spreading amongst them. So we do it. The plant can grow right out from it, but the bugs and everything really are stopped from getting back into it.
Okay, do you suggest people wax their own plants or call in a professional?
Generally, you don't have to wax it if you're, unless you've really got a giant rose garden, you've had problems with the wasps before, if you've got black spot, mold, or mildew, maybe take an extra precaution. Most times you're not going to need this just because you're not going to have that many roses that are spreading diseases or having problems amongst themselves.
Gotcha. So with the roses, live and let live?
Live and let live. They're going to grow a little bit. They're probably going to get some freeze damage in Texas because roses kind of want to be green all year long. They don't love the dormancy, so when we're 80 in the winter time, they're going to try to grow. We do need to give them water when there's in drought. We have droughts though, and that's the other thing. We haven't had water in a very long time in Central Texas. And a lot of people here are from up north or here. We winterized our irrigation. We won't turn it on till April. You will have dead plants in the spring if you don't water at all in the winter time.
Good to know. Okay, guys, if you want to learn more, you can reach out to Lance directly, plants.org.